Hello, Roger.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you,
morning.
buddy?
Excellent. Truly excellent.
Well, that's good. Are you just waking up, or have you been on a press tour?
I took a little halcyon last night to sleep, so I'm just running a little behind.
What's
okay.
Halcyon?
Halcyon's the greatest sleeping pill of all time. It kind of knocks you out, but it only works for a couple of hours, and then you wake up refreshed. You don't have that kind of groggy, hangover feeling. So it's a great medication.
Oh, okay. So let's.
All right, Big Pharma, send me my check. Thank you.
Well, at least that's good. You got knocked out a little bit, and then you woke up and you feel refreshed.
It's good stuff.
Now you have been you have taken a little umbrage with Tom Arnold.
Well, I got a lot going on. I was on the Tucker Carlson show last night because Steve Bannon is the watchword of the day.
You mean Sloppy Steve?
Sloppy Steve.
Sloppy Steve is what he's known as.
I mean, in all honesty, last week I came out with my 12th annual best and worst dressed list. This is like a tradition that I picked up from Mr. Blackwell. This is my 12th year. It's published at the Daily Caller. I put a lot of thought and effort into it. It's both men and women and so on. But leading the worst dressed category, a man who I believe actually chases down hobos and steals their clothing.
Whoa,
Steve Bannon.
He's not a well dressed individual. But wasn't that kind of his thing to not be to be sloppy and unshaven and not care?
Yeah, but it just how about soap and water? I mean, it doesn't work. It really
unbathed.
does. It doesn't work. There's a difference between being a revolutionary and being a bum, and and I kid him about this all the time. But this more recent thing, it kind of blows my mind in the sense that I now learned that all the stuff he said about Trump and the Trump children and so on, it wasn't after he got fired. In other words, you could chalk it up to his anger if it happened after he got fired. He was doing this while he was on the White House payroll in his White House office, kind of laying on the couch in this stream of consciousness interview with Michael Wolff.
Wow.
So why do you think he would do that? Is it a matter of forgetting where you are? Is it I'm drunk with power and I have all this information?
Or drunk, just drunk.
Can't keep my mouth shut, or is he just drunk?
Could be one of the last two. No, I think it's like hubris. In other words, I think he actually got to the point where he believed that he had elected Trump. Let's be pretty clear, because I've known and worked on and off for Donald Trump for 40 years. There's no Karl Rove in Trump world. Trump says and does whatever he wants. He'll ask your opinion. You're allowed to make a pitch on something you think he should do or not do, and he may or may not incorporate recommendations you make to him. But at the end of the day, he is totally freewheeling. And this guy is a force of nature. He does it his way. And you can argue with that, except for it's been pretty successful. Somehow he won, the greatest come-from-behind improbable victory in American political history. And for Steve Bannon to call himself the chief strategist is, at best, a misnomer.
Do you think he really eats cheeseburgers? Does Donald really eat cheeseburgers in bed?
I've never seen him eat a cheeseburger in bed. I can say that under oath.
But does he strike?
And if I get to the Senate Judiciary Committee, they could ask me that, and I will say I have never seen him eat a cheeseburger in bed.
Does he strike you as the type of guy that would eat a cheeseburger in bed?
No, he does love a good cheeseburger.
Okay.
He also meatloaf. Meatloaf is his other all-time favorite.
Breaking.
Yeah, you go to the Mar-a-Lago Club for lunch, let's say, or you used to go to the old Plaza Hotel when he owned it in New York. If you had a dinner with him or lunch with him, and I did on many occasions, he would always heavily recommend the meatloaf. And by the way, it was always good. I kind of like meatloaf.
Do you think that as the president, he focuses a little too much on some of the smaller or pettier, because there's times where he's doing a great job with getting the economy going and getting jobs back, and sometimes it seems like he focuses a little too much on some of the smaller, pettier things that he could probably look above and beyond and not.
You mean like the fake news awards?
Some of the fake news I get, but some of it just seems like the type of thing you'd respond to when you're just a celebrity and not when you're the president.
I would care about that if we didn't have a record stock market if we didn't have unemployment at historic lows, if we didn't have a boom in the housing market. It's kind of like saying, I like this Harry Truman, but he swears a little too much.
Okay.
In other words, it's his style. He's not going to change. If I had $1 for every person who stops me in the street and says, could you just tell Donald to stop tweeting? No, I couldn't. Because it's not going to happen. There's zero chance it will ever happen. He loves it. It works for him. Mm-hmm. It's a way to communicate direct and not have to go through the news anchor. I couldn't tell him that. He has developed a style. It's a style that many people love. It's a style that other people hate. It's not going to change. He's going to call people Sloppy Steve or the Rocket Man or Lil Marco or Crooked Hillary. It's just Trump, and it worked at the ballot box.
In a weird way, it is the purest form of American politics, because it used to just be you would take someone, elect them, they would do the job, and then go back to their regular life. And he was a guy who was not in the political system long before he won. So it kind of, there is something very pure about taking somebody who was not at all in the system, was not at all groomed and designed to do this job, and then giving them the job.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree. No matter what you think, he's authentic. He's genuine. It's not like somebody saying, oh, here's the latest polling, Mr. President. Don't say this. Don't say that. Or you've got to say this. Or here's our new focus groups. You should stress this. He just isn't like that. And virtually every politician I've worked for in 10 national presidential campaigns has been exactly like that.
So what about this? What about this thing that came out, the excerpt from the book that came out, that he never wanted to win, that when he did win, there was almost a panic, and Melania was crying, and Kellyanne Conway was already putting her calls in thinking that they would lose, and that like everybody involved in the campaign had other avenues that they were intending to go down, and it was kind of a panic when he actually won.
Yeah, entirely bogus. I mean, this guy he's a super competitor. Now, I think he was realistic about the odds. I think we know from one of the oral histories that he told his wife the night before, honey, we may not win. But I think that's just preparing people for what was going to be,
Sure.
a very close and comfort from behind race. But he's super competitive. Also, the other point I'd make is in that last 3 weeks, here's a guy who normally gets 3 hours sleep a night. He got virtually no hours sleep a night. I mean, he was barnstorming Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in a relentless, physical, all-out effort, adding on 3-4 campaign stops a day. Meanwhile, Hillary's in Chappaqua picking out the wallpaper for the Oval Office when she gets to move in. He completely out-hustled her in the last 2 weeks.
So she kind of thought it was her birthright, at least with this election, and then he went in. Because didn't they say he won some areas that were like Obama had won? Like that was what they said actually put him over.
Did, yeah.
Was taking some of Obama's old, and they may have just been disgruntled Bernie voters.
Well, 3 out of 10 Bernie voters voted for Trump, I think, on the basis of trade and war issues. Yes, he does well enough in Detroit and well enough in Milwaukee and well enough in Philadelphia to win 3 Democratic states. Now, it's incremental. For example, he gets 3% more of the African-American vote in Michigan than Mitt Romney did. Well, 3% is enough to swing the state. It's 10,000 votes. There's victory right there. So in other words, African-American voters in Michigan elected Donald Trump.
So you said that you thought, based on conversations that you had, that there was a strong likelihood that he would get impeached by December. I think you were on Alex Jones, and you said something about being with top Washington people who were all saying that Trump would be impeached by December. Not that you wanted him to or expected him to, but based on the conversations you were having with Washington insiders, that he would be impeached by the end of 2017. What happened?
Well, first of all, I didn't say impeached. I said removed.
Okay.
And it's by the end of 2018, not 2017. So, in other words, we have what they call the 25th Amendment. Under the 25th Amendment, the vice president and a majority of the cabinet can vote to remove the president. The president, if they have those votes, can appeal that. That appeal vote goes to the entire U.S. House of Representatives, run by Paul Ryan. So I believe that, first of all, Mueller and the special counsel will attempt to remove Trump based on some phony, pardon the expression, trumped up process crime. Oh, he committed perjury in the removal of Comey, or he obstructed justice. It's nonsense. But they may attempt. Mueller's not looking so hot these days, given all the revelations about his probe and the partisan nature of it. Let's say that fails. Now you're going to see a giant ramp up in the Trump is crazy talk. You already see it from Crazy Joe Scarborough, Don Lemon, Senator Robert Corker. You're going to see that huge uptick in that. They're going to try that line of attack. And then we'll see, what Mike Pence is made of. It's a mistake to underestimate the enmity that the two-party establishment and the real, the elite politicians in both parties have for Donald Trump. And it's a mistake to underestimate their intention to try to remove him. Now, I don't know that they will be successful. I intend to be out there fighting them, but I do see this coming. I don't think he ever gets a day of peace, despite the success so far of his presidency.
And you can you talk for a second too about what happened with Leanne Tweeden and the allegations that were made by Tom Arnold about that?
This is pretty incredible. I got a tip very late one evening that Leanne Tweeden, who I have never met, never communicated with, never had any association with, was going to come forward and make these allegations against Senator Franken, allegations of sexual assault. So I go to Twitter and I post it. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30. And the next morning she has a press conference and she says exactly what I was told by a source in New York, somebody very high up in the Fox News organization, not Sean Hannity, by the way, that this was going to happen. The next thing I know, Tom Arnold, who I guess used to be a comedian but is now out of work, puts up a tweet and says that Roger Stone coached Leanne Tweeden for weeks about these allegations, and therefore Franken should not step down. Guys, I've never met Leanne Tweeden in my entire life. I never communicated with her or anyone around her or her camp. It's entirely bogus. Then Tom Arnold says, I'm going to produce proof, and I'm still waiting. Well, the next thing you know, the former governor of Minnesota picks this up, and he says Roger Stone should be investigated. What did he know, and when did he know it? And then Joe Scarborough jumps on the bandwagon. Guys, this is really simple. I reported it. I work for InfoWars as a journalist. I do a show every day for 2 hours a day. You guys know how that is.
Yep.
And I reported it. That is the total extent of my role. Now, maybe, I think Tom Arnold had an appearance coming up at the Comedy Store on Somerset Boulevard. He was trying to hustle some tickets. He thought he could hook into some of my publicity, but Tom, put up or shut up. Baby, put up or shut up. Now, where's the proof? Where's the proof?
Now we do have Tom. Would you be willing to have Tom at least tell you what his opinion on this is? We have Tom on the phone, if that's okay.
I'd love to put him on.
Tom, hello, buddy. You're on with Sam and Jim and Roger. How are you?
All right. Can we swear on this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can, Roger. And okay.
I'm ready to put up, Roger. First of all, you're full of shit. Second of all, you act like you didn't know anybody at KABC where Leanne worked. When you're
guilt by association, buddy. It's called guilt by association. Where's your proof? I'm waiting for the proof.
Hold on, John Phillips.
Where is it?
Here, I'm going to lay it. Let me lay it. John Phillips is your good friend. You spent a lot of time in
I've been on John
with
Phillips'
him.
radio
I've got
show.
pictures of you guys together. But forget that. The weekend you were kicked off Twitter for calling people the C word, you stayed at John Phillips' place. John Phillips is Jillian Barbery's partner on
I was in Salt Lake
ABC.
City
That's a
giving
fact.
speech.
That's a
False.
fact. That's a
No, it's not a false.
No, that's not false. Well, then sue me.
False.
Sue me if that's false. Okay. Okay. Number two, John Phillips.
That's not the worst idea I've ever heard, but so far you got a big nothing.
Are you telling
when
me
did I ever
John
talk to
Phillips?
Tweeden?
Are you telling me you don't know her coworker?
I know John Phillips. What does that prove?
Have you
John
been
Phillips
to
is
his,
not my source.
You stayed at his house, Roger?
The previous summer, I stayed with him one weekend. What does that prove? That's called guilt by association.
Okay, I say
new
that
McCarthyism.
I stayed there right before the Leanne Tweeden announcement, and when you're kicked off Twitter that weekend, I think everybody kind of knows what that was.
False. I was in Salt Lake
Let me just say this:
the weekend.
I worked with Leanne for years. I'm the only person here that's worked with Leanne.
You should learn how to spell her. Then you should learn how to spell her name properly.
I spelled it once wrong, but that's you know what? For a guy that does your online hookup things and doesn't accept fatties, I think that's an insult to me. Right there.
You're just upset because you can't get into the party.
Called him a fatty.
Yeah, I'm really worried about that. Anyway, so Roger, what happened is, he just wants to tear people down. That's his thing, and he wants to be back in the game. His old partner, Paul Manafort's made hundreds of millions of dollars since 1996 when they broke up because Roger got that sex scandal that he lied about on TV, and he blames it on alcoholism.
Must be tough to be living off of Roseanne's residuals.
I wish. Anyway, I watched your documentary. It's in that, and you're proud of that. So here's the thing. Leanne has had that picture for 10 years. She showed it to Sean Hannity in 2007. All of us knew about that picture. All of us knew, because I do the USO thing, too, with Alan and Leanne. So we knew about that picture, and she showed it to everybody. And,
of course, I would have no way of knowing that.
Sean Hannity, everybody had seen it, and it wasn't a big deal. And then suddenly, some people at the station said, with this Me Too movement, which I am also involved in, this is a time we can do something with that picture. And I know this because I talked to Leanne. After this happened, and what they did is her producer that works with her, they started coaching her up like I would coach her up on my show. I produced the Best Damn Sports Show, period. I would say, Leanne, this is a segment about this. Here's the bullet points to hit. Tell me, let's try to dig something out of here. So she dug out the Kiss thing, and she dug out the USO party in 2009 where she saw Al, and she was so offended. And then after I heard that story, when I talked to her on the phone, I said, who coached you? Who was your producer? They did a terrible job. That was a USO dinner honoring Al Franken. That's a hard time for you to go, I didn't.
Okay, so the six other women.
They were honoring him. I go, I know that's kind of stupid.
The six other women who come forward who are all Democrats, did I coach them too? Are they all liars as well?
Roger, pardon me. Tom, can you just finish that what you were just saying? Just if I could just clarify, who was it that she answered you when you said who coached you? What did she say?
Did she tell you? Did Leanne tell you that Roger?
She called me. Leanne told me. She said, and I believe her. She goes, she didn't realize she was being coached. She didn't know who Roger Stone was. But the one thing she'd ask KBC is, don't announce it until I announce it, until I get out there and announce it. And Roger Stone tweeted about it before it happened.
That's because I'm a superb reporter, but you have no proof whatsoever that I've ever met her.
Your dossier that you sent out to people.
Never met her, never talked to her, never coached her.
A lawyer who's a big gossip columnist out here, and several people who shared it with me. For Roger Stone, he didn't use his name; he used a Russian name.
We go on proof here, Tom.
Okay, I have the proof. I've given it to.
Have I met?
Yeah, Tom, if you could let Roger respond a little bit.
Never communicated.
Did you not do that? Are you saying you didn't do that?
Roger, do you have a Russian alias?
I have no Russian alias. That's absurd.
Yeah, Tom's asking, did you do that? That's a fair question.
Yeah,
did I do what? Did I ever
Franken?
I'm sorry. One more time.
Did you send any information out on Al Franken?
Did I send anybody information? No, absolutely not.
Besides tweeting about it when nobody was supposed to know about it.
I reported it because that's what I do.
Roger,
I didn't orchestrate it or make any of it happen.
How did you find out about it, Roger? Like how did you get the inside track?
And the tipster was not in Los Angeles. The tipster was in New York, and they turned out to be right.
Well, then it was Sean Hannity because he was involved in it with you.
Oh,
that's a fact. Leanne
now we're shifting
Leanne
our
told
story.
me that, and you shared it with everybody.
What I feel, John Phillips anymore. Now it's Sean Hannity. Maybe it was Rupert Murdoch.
Okay,
come on.
But listen, but no, because I'm sure he wouldn't even talk to you, Roger. I think what happened is you saw something happening. You said, "I'm going to get on top of this so I can get back in the splash, get back in the news," and so you jumped the gun. They asked you not to do it. The people at KBC have had a bunch of meetings about you since then. You got John Phillips in major trouble down there. He can't eat. He went.
This is a great fairy tale.
Me for $5 million for saying he was associated with you.
For Disney. So, Tom, I'll look for your next book in the fiction section at Barnes & Noble. This is an absurdity.
Anyway, this is what happened. So, and
not even close. Not even close to what
happened. He took out Al Franken because Al Franken was asking too many good questions about Russia.
Al Franken was taken out because 7 different women accused him of sexual assault. 6 of them Democratic activists.
Tom, hang on, Tom. When Leanne told you that she was coached, Who specifically did she say coached her? Did she say Roger Stone? Did she say Sean Hannity?
No, it was the guy. I get their two names. See if I can find them here. I have them down. They work with her. They work with Jillian Barbary, who's John Phillips' co-host. They work at KBC. There's a producer that runs the station. I'm looking at my DMs here.
And Tom, let me just ask you why you're doing that, because I'm going by what you're both saying. I really don't have a lot of prior knowledge of this. Is it possible that you're mistaken that it wasn't Roger?
Well, Roger announced it before, but nobody was supposed to know about it. He had the information.
But that makes you a journalist. That doesn't make you the orchestrator of it. That doesn't prove that
you're a journalist. You work for InfoWars. But let me say this.
Millions of
what happened is his friend unfortunately shared it with him.
Nailed him.
It shared the information, and then Roger put out an alert to everybody and some false information about Al
being ahead of the pack.
So he could flood the field at the same day that Leanne announced. When Leanne got back, by the way, these guys did a shitty job with Leanne. And I feel sorry for Leanne, too, because they coached her up. She doesn't know what's going on. She thinks she's going to change women's lives. They told her what to hit, what bullet points to hit. She didn't want Al Franken fired, but she thought, well, I could be like Jackie Spear, who has fired me, who's a congresswoman, and women can come to me. And then so they get everything they want from her at KABC. They have her do the announcement with their logo in the background. Roger Stone has sent out all this information, this dossier.
Six other women come forward.
Okay. I'll get it to you, Roger. I'll get it to you. And he sends that out in advance of her, and then they put her on a plane to New York to do those interviews, which, by the way, by herself. They put this young woman on the plane without her husband or kids, no man from the station. They were done with her. They had used her. She lands in New York. She doesn't even know what show she's doing. They go, oh, you're going to The View. She's throwing up. She's sick. Oh, you're going over here. And then they want her to
What does any of this have to do with what does any of this have to do with me? What does any of this have to do? And what about those six other women?
Here's the thing. You are the scumbag that perpetuated this whole thing and put it out there.
I'm the journalist reporter. You just can't handle the truth.
But you lied to me. You said you heard it from New York, and I know you heard it from John Phillips, and the KBC knows you heard it from John Phillips. They had a big meeting down there.
Put up or shut up, Tom. Prove it. No, just because you repeat a lie over and over again doesn't make it true.
Okay, but are you saying it's not true that you never spoke to John Phillips about that?
Never said anything of the kind. I spoke to him after it was announced the following morning. I didn't talk to him prior to it because John Phillips is not my source. Just because I know John Phillips, just because I've been on his radio show, that doesn't prove that he was my source. That's called guilt by association. 2 and 2 equals 5.
Yeah, well, that's anyway. The company has the email. The KBC has the email.
We're gay lovers.
That's in the real world, not in the Roger Stone fantasy world. That's what happened. And a lot of people got in trouble about it. And I was actually worried for John.
Hey, Tom, Netflix is never going to make a movie called "Get Me Tom Arnold." Let me assure you.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
you hit him, huh?
You know, I know the joy that he feels for starting this to take a man down. I'm not saying that the other people, I'm not judging anybody else that came forward. I'm just saying this was the impetus. This was the buildup. This was she was coached 100% like you would coach somebody to do a segment. I love the
not by Roger Stone, that's for sure. I've never met the woman, never laid eyes on her.
No, I didn't say by you. I said other people did.
No, you specifically said coached for weeks by Roger Stone and John Phillips.
Did I say that? What did I say that on?
Yes. Your very first tweet. Your very first tweet.
I talked live with my voice.
Your very first tweet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's what happened. There was a couple weeks she was coached down there, and Roger Stone was involved, and
not involved.
He took it, and he took the glory of it. You know, the glory of taking someone down. And that's what Al Franken, that's what he did, not for the betterment of the country, not for anything patriotic, because he's Roger Stone.
Removing men who assault women from public office, that's a patriotic act in my book. This wasn't done on the basis of just Leanne Tweeden's claims. 6 other women have come forward, every single one of them a liberal Democrat activist.
Right. That's not true. But they talked about him patting them on the butt or something before he was whatever. I'm not saying that's appropriate, but it's not Harvey Weinstein. And the truth is, yes, Lee.
Okay.
Tom, I think I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in too, because when people are talking about each other, it's better if they can weigh in. We're going to let you go, but I appreciate you calling in, and I wanted you to give your side of it as well, so both people could be heard.
Roger Stone is so full of shit, he doesn't even know he's full of shit. But anyway.
You know what, Tom Arnold is so full of shit, his eyes are brown. Thank you.
All right. It is funny.
Shit show you do. Good Lord.
You nailed him.
All right, Tom.
Work with a microphone sometime. Fucking makes me go to sleep. It is the worst. Talk faster. You think you get some coaching up. Have Jim Norton coach you up a little bit. Hit a stage.
By the way, I hope you find work. Good luck to you.
I hope you find the couch you're sleeping on in Harlem.
Are you sleeping on a couch in Harlem, Roger?
I have an apartment in Harlem. He likes to cyber stalk me, tell people where I eat.
With who?
Stuff. It's kind of bizarre.
Who do you live with?
Plastic surgery victim. I know exactly where you live. I know.
Okay, that's creepy.
I know where you eat.
the cyber
scary.
Roger Stone to Roger Stone.
Can I ask? Have you guys ever met?
Thank you guys for having me on.
You guys should hang.
All right, Tom. We appreciate it, and good luck with the baby. I can hear the kids actually. It needs a little bit of attention.
All right, bye.
Okay, buddy. Be well. All right, yeah, Raj. We just wanted to. I figured it's fair if you're.
I got to tell you, I get where Tom Arnold's coming from. I did not hear any.
I didn't hear any definitive
evidence.
proof. No, I heard
he did say
circumstantial, but not definitive. No,
he did in the beginning of the call say that Roger produced her. Then he switched over to.
Yeah, I think maybe
Roger knew that she was produced.
Maybe things look a certain way.
There's a big difference.
Sure.
He says in his first tweet that I coached her for weeks. Roger Stone coached her for weeks. Gents, I've never met the woman, spoken to her, but I have no problem with him coming on. He's not very good on his feet, but so be it.
But also, if you do have a source, and if your source is in New York, I mean, obviously you can't come out and say who that is. And in
is
a way,
it Hannity?
Yeah, you said it was Hannity.
Hannity. I don't speak very often to Sean Hannity, so
I
it was
didn't
not
even know his name.
Yeah, you can't come out and say who your source is. But although you did say who it wasn't, so that kind of narrows it down a little bit. At least you put it what side of the country.
When they crucify you when you report something and it turns out to be wrong. In this case, I reported something only about 4 hours before it broke, and she had a press conference on the West Coast, and I turned out to be right. But coaching her, orchestrating it, never happened.
You don't think there's going to be a documentary, Get Me Tom Arnold, on Netflix?
Not in your lifetime.
Oh, wow. I'm a young man.
I do. You're neither of those things. I do. Now, we wanted to switch gears for a second, too, because you're a very big JFK conspiracy guy. We can be considered an expert on the subject. You know a tremendous amount.
He wrote a goddamn book.
He certainly did. And there was a huge dump of files and information, which, the president, I think, could have stopped, and he did not stop. And
yes.
Can you discuss, first of all, the ones that have not been dumped yet and when they are actually going to be released? What are they going over them for?
Well, you've got about 3,100 documents that are still outstanding that have not been released. And the intelligence services went to President Trump on October 26th and said, we have this material over here. If you insist, we'll release it. But these other documents are too sensitive, and we should classify them so that they're never released. His response says, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Let's schedule those for 6 months from now so I have time to review them. So they're currently under review. Of the material they already released, we learned an enormous amount. First of all, it's pretty clear now from these documents that President Kennedy was shot from both the front and the back. That would mean more than one gunman. That would mean a conspiracy. We know that the man who went to Mexico City, to the Russian embassy, to the Cuban consulate was most likely not Lee Harvey Oswald because he did not match Oswald's physical description. We know that Vice President Lyndon Johnson was a member of the Ku Klux Klan prior to his being in the Congress. That was also in the files. So the files have been very educational. There is this problem, and that is the intelligence services redact a great deal, meaning they black it out with a magic marker so
right.
You can't read it. And there's a lot of things that they have blacked out. The problem with that is, if you go back to the 1992 law that required the release of these documents, it says if the government decides to redact anything, they have to publish their reason, their rationale,
yes.
in the Federal Register as to why they blacked it out by January 1st. And guess what? They didn't. So now I believe Senator Grassley, Congressman Jones, and others are going to go back in and say, why was some of this material withheld, and what does it pertain to?
But there is an original copy somewhere.
I'm sorry, I say it again.
Oh, sorry, Roger. There is an original copy somewhere that has not been redacted. Meaning there is an original copy that has not been blacked out that they're working off of.
Oh, most definitely. They have the original records. what is this really about? In other words, why would anybody be opposed to the release of documents regarding something that happened 50-plus years ago?
That's what I can't understand either.
Because the Central Intelligence Agency doesn't want us to know that the stuff that they did then, lying, covering up, fabricating, switching things out, they do those things today. It's about their methods, not their sources. One of their arguments was, we can't release this because we'll expose our sources and they'll be in danger. Really? Who's still on the payroll 50 years later?
Right.
The answer is virtually nobody. Trump was really smart about this. He said, okay, you can hold back any information regarding anyone who is still living. That didn't change things much in terms of what they released.
And did you read, I Hear You Paint Houses?
Yes, excellent book.
Yeah, it's about Frank Sheeran. They say he was at least involved. He was very close with Russell Buffalino and the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. And there's a part in the book where he's talking about being asked to bring something, which is weapons, to a warehouse, and David Ferry apparently is with someone else driving them down to Florida, which is this whole Cuban tie-in with the assassination. But it seems fairly non-bragging when this guy is talking about it, and it does seem fairly believable that there was some kind of a tie-in with David Ferry getting guns.
Yeah, it's almost casual in the book. I believe it is true. Ferry is working for Carlos Marcello, who controls the mob in Texas and Louisiana. The mob is very much involved in this. In other words, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of good scholarship regarding who killed John F. Kennedy, but it's not a simple answer. Some people say, it was organized crime. It was the CIA. It was Lyndon Baines Johnson. It was Big Texas Oil. It was the anti-Castro Cubans. As I laid out in my book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, it's all of them. Everybody has an interest, their own individual interest in the murder of John Kennedy, and everybody plays a role. But who controlled the Dallas police? Who controlled the Dallas Sheriff's Office? Who controlled the Dallas District Attorney, who has total control of the investigation of the murder? Who controls the motorcade route? Why, that would be Lyndon Baines Johnson. And as we learned only yesterday from 2 retired Dallas police officers, LBJ hits the deck in his limousine before the first bullet is fired.
That's like when a guy tweets about a story right before the story gets broken.
Exactly. Big news.
So, it's funny. For many years, I was a conspiracy believer. And then, Vincent Bugliosi, I thought, wrote a great book, Reclaiming History. And I was like, it makes a lot of sense. And then, a lot of these documents come out. It's kind of hard to deny that there was a lot of very fishy things happening.
Yeah, I debated with Gerald Posner, who's actually a really great guy. He's just wrong about every major question of the 20th century.
Oh, boy.
He's also against the legalization of marijuana, if you can imagine such a thing.
What do you think of Jeff? What do you think of what Jeff Sessions is doing with the marijuana legalization?
Lunacy. He better check in with his boss, because Donald Trump campaigned very clearly on protecting the access of millions of Americans to state legalize marijuana for medical purposes. He said it numerous times. So,
state rights is a Republican ideal, isn't it?
No question. And the president was very, very clear. I actually have a TV spot. I'm working with something called the United States Cannabis Coalition. Bill Maher is in our group, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Jesse Ventura. It's totally bipartisan. Congressman Matt Gaetz, Curtis Sliwa, and so on. To get Sessions to back down and recognize and support the president's pledge. He promised us continued access to medicinal marijuana.
Do you think this is more? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Roger. Do you think this is more something that the vice president is pushing? Because Mike Pence seems like a little bit more of the religious conservative ideology of the party.
I bet he probably would like to refire the war on drugs. But here's the problem: the war on drugs was a failure. You ruin lives. You spend a fortune on incarceration. Nobody is rehabilitated. If you were a social scientist, you could say, but at least drug use went down, except for drug use went up. So the entire experiment has been a big, ignominious, racist failure, because a disproportionate number of the people who are going to jail, are people of color. If you're wealthy and you can afford the right lawyer, you can get off the hook.
Right.
But most people can't. So refiring the war on drugs could be the greatest single mistake Trump could make. He's pledged not to do it in the campaign, and now you have Jeff Sessions saying good people don't smoke marijuana. Well, Senator, sick people smoke marijuana. My father and my grandfather both died of cancer. It was horrific. Chemotherapy, radiation, the whole thing. I can tell you that marijuana made their final days much, much better, really improved their quality of life on the way out, which is a merciful thing. It's just amazing to me that Sessions is trying to take us backwards.
Yeah. All right,
It
Roger.
does feel backwards.
Yeah, it does feel very backwards. One final question. Somebody called in. Is it possible that Mueller could uncover something that would get James Comey into some type of hot water?
I think James Comey is already in very hot water. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley came forward, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and said it's pretty clear that Comey lied about various FBI reports. I believe that he perjured himself in front of the Congress when he lied about the illegal surveillance of 30,000 Americans as revealed by the FISA court. That includes yours truly, Roger Stone. So I already think he's in deep kimchi.
Okay, you do. And will you be talking to the president this afternoon?
I have no specific plan to talk to the president, but he does have a tendency after you're on TV to give you a call, and I did have a star turn on the Tucker Carlson show last night talking about Steve Bannon's wardrobe, so you never know.
All right, Roger. Well, it's always a pleasure. You're such an interesting guy, and anytime you want to come in or call, you can go to at Roger Stone Jr. Jr. on Twitter, and Stone Cold. Why? Oh God, that's right. They took his Twitter. Oh God,
no. I'm going from Twitter. I am banned until I sue the living daylights out of them next year.
You know what? Before we let you go, let me ask you about that. I can't believe I forgot that. How do you feel about being? Do you think that's completely political if they took you off?
Yeah, I'm being held to a different standard. Keith Olbermann can advocate the assassination of Donald Trump, and he's still there. I hurt Jake Tapper's feelings, and I'm removed. I'm going to sue them in multiple lawsuits in different jurisdictions. They're not going to know what hit them. So when I own Twitter at the end of next year, you guys can come see me.
All right. I'm sorry I said that.
I get that double verification check when Roger Stone owns
absolutely
Twitter.
2 blue checks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, stonecoldtruth.com is Roger's website. And thank you, Roger. You're just a really interesting guy, and we appreciate you calling in and talking.
I love being with you guys. Many thanks.
Okay,
Thank
buddy.
you.
We'll see you again.
Roger Stone, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I just turned my own mic off. Okay, yeah.
That's it. It's all right. There's so many buttons.
I do enjoy Roger. I love Tom too, though. I love the fact that these two guys just. It is weird. Like no matter how smart you are, no matter where you are in politics, at the end of it, it's just like, yeah, well, you're out of work. Yeah, well, you suck.
Yeah.
Like it's just two guys yelling.
You
at each other.
got so much shit in you. Your eyes are shit.
Yeah, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. It's just two guys yelling at each other.
Yeah, and the little kid in the background just like crying.
Yeah, you know how bad Tom wishes that the wife could take it so he could just start screaming, but you got the kid.
Yeah.
Oh, you're full of shit. Yes, baby. What do you need? Should we take a quick break?
Yeah, we can take